So, what's holding you back in life from doing the things that you want? I realized as I was reflecting recently that there were so many things in place, circumstances that should have, could have dictated my life experience. But I've been, I guess, a rebel all along. And from a very young age, right, at the age of 5, I had a very mystical experience, which I didn't understand back then. And it was that I had a vision in the middle of the night on a Friday night leading into Saturday morning where Yeshua and Mother Mary appeared, as well as the serpent on the wall. And Yeshua's face would change with mine. Fast forward to 2021. This was in 1977 when I had the experience. And 5 years ago, I had a session with a woman who channeled Mother Mary. And she asked me if I had a question for her. And I said, yeah, I had this experience when I was 5 and I didn't know what it meant. And Yeshua stepped forward in that session. His mother appeared, he appeared, Mary Magdalene showed up, Isis, Sekhmet, Kuan Yin, and his grandmother, Anna, all showed up. But he stepped forward to speak and he said, you came with the condition that you not be allowed to forget why you are here. And that was a blessing because not everybody has that kind of reminder, especially at a young age. So I didn't know at the time, right, how challenging life was going to be. But I was going to have to find my way through the challenges of life. Like growing up in a family where selling drugs became the livelihood. Um, my mom getting in trouble with the law. And one of the rebellious things that I did was that when she fled, I decided not to go with her. And I took my chances on whatever it was that caused me to stay in the States when she left for Mexico. This pattern has continued throughout my life. I don't stay in relationships. I don't stay in organizations. I don't stay in jobs where the mind would tell me it is the safest thing to do. Don't walk away from the security at whatever level it was available, whatever level I thought. And there was an autoimmune condition that showed up for me in 2002 where I started to lose the use of my hands and my legs would go out from under me. I had lost that rebellious spirit. Perhaps the challenges of my life had gotten to me, including an 18-year relationship where he was very abusive and he drank every day. And I was supposed to have left, and I was afraid to take a chance on me. So when the condition showed up, he said to me, now you can't leave me because you need me to take care of you because you're sick. But it was the push out the door that I needed to leave that environment so that I could begin to remember what that vision from when I was 5 was trying to tell me. I came here for more. I also had a vision when I was at Agape, taking a class about Yeshua. I had thrown the baby out with the bathwater right at the time, like rejected religion. And so something about this class called to me. And in our first class, I had another mystical experience where I found myself seeing his feet, the hem of his garment, the fire crackling behind him, the Sea of Galilee moving in the background with the moon shining. And when I came back into my body, I was like, oh my God, was I there? I still don't necessarily know, but I suspect that that was the case. So recently, a year ago, I went to Bali. And one of the temples, the first temple that we go to is called Goalawa. And it's the bat temple. And there's a cave that is filled with bats, and they are said to protect a snake that lives in there. And the theme of the temple is release. So you take something that symbolizes what you are ready to release, whether it's a piece of art that you draw, that you paint, symbolic of all the things that you're ready to let go of, um, or you do like me. I cut off the tops to the boxes of the medicine that I had been receiving since 2004. So, since 2004, I had to set aside 2 days a month for a nurse to come to my house and give me the medicine intravenously. And each infusion lasted about 6, 8 hours. So this was 16 hours a month of my life that went towards getting treatment for the condition that forced me out of the toxic relationship all those years ago. So I cut off the tops to the boxes and I put them inside of a Ziploc bag. And that's what I put on the temple at Goalawa that I was ready to release. So here's an update. A year later, almost a year later, when I got back, my nurse kept pushing me to switch to a different medication that I would administer myself. And this would liberate me from being tethered to her schedule. And I could plan out when I would give myself these treatments. And they weren't intravenous anymore, they were sub-Q, which means that it's similar to like a diabetic injection. The needles are that small. And I place 5 needles on my belly. And then that infusion lasts about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And I do it once a week. So there was a shift with regards to the level of freedom that I didn't have then that I have now. But here's something else that's interesting that happened. So every couple of years, the neurologist will do an EKG, a nerve conduction test, to see if I still have the conduction blocks. Because what happens is that uh, the signals, the messages for the muscles to move are not able to get through. So there is either immobility or weakness throughout the muscles. But the doctors do this every so often um, to just see, right, if this condition isn't all in my head, if it's true, because there's no other way to diagnose this, to recognize it. So he did that, and then I had a pinched nerve that started to flare up, and so I had an MRI done, and I had this issue this time last year with the pinched nerve as well, because I tend to overwork. I sit at my desk too long. Um, so when I went in for the results of both of these exams about 2 weeks ago, uh, the neurologist had a baffled look on his face. And he said, well, you're not worse than you were. When we did this 3 years ago, it appeared to be worse, and you had carpal tunnel then. And the carpal tunnel is now gone. So that was like on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I went to the pain doctor for the nerve, and the pain had been radiating from the vertebrae C6 and C7, and it would generate like a shooting pain down my arm, and it would go down my left side, down my leg, and I had this issue, like I said, a year ago, and they had done an MRI then, and I think he was expecting to come into the room and tell me to start getting ready for surgery. But what he ended up saying was, it looks better than it did a year ago. There is no need for surgery. So even though you had experienced that flare up, it's nothing that is not manageable with anti-inflammatories right now. So this is the first time since 2002 when I initially started experiencing the symptoms of the autoimmune condition, and where not one, but two doctors said to me within the course of 1 week, you are better than you were a year ago. You are better than you were 3 years ago. No one has ever said that to me in 25 years that this condition has been present. Sometimes people ask, why haven't you healed yet? You're a good person. And there's been an awakening that's been unfolding for me just before Bali. It started just before Bali last year when Reverend Michael came onto the screen as I was teaching a class and in our pre-meeting, and he said, you're about to have a big awakening. And I thought that it was going to happen all at once. Um, and then here comes the trip to Bali. So when I came back from Bali and I hadn't experienced enlightenment, I thought, oh my God, it didn't happen. And I was disappointed. But because I've been in the teachings of Dr. Sue Morter, who teaches a systemic approach to awakening, and she lays it out very plainly and lovingly in her recent book, The Anatomy of Awakening, that I realized that I've been building the circuits for years to begin to have the level of experiences that I'm having where things are falling into place within my awareness, where the resistance has dropped to accepting the fact that there is only one energy. That energy is what we call God, and that energy is me. There used to be so many things that stood in the way of allowing that to be a truth for me, right? So I've been having like really amazing experiences in the dream time where I find myself floating, almost like without a body, just a consciousness that is floating in outer space. And it's similar to what one experiences when you work with the psychedelic 5-MeO-DMT. They call it like the medicine for ego death and the God molecule because that's exactly what happens. You lose complete awareness of the physical boundaries of your body, which is shocking to the system. And you experience your oneness with it all, with all of life. So that's a severe way for someone to have these experiences, and I don't recommend it. What I do recommend is this systemic approach to awakening. All of us are here to remember the truth of who and what we've always been, and then to not allow anything to disrupt the energy that is us, that is source, from moving through this body as a doorway and creating the movie that you want to experience as your life. And there are ways to build the circuits within your body to be able to hold higher and higher frequencies of this energy, more and more God pouring through you, so that you can experience what you came here to experience. And if those are challenging things, then it doesn't knock you out. It doesn't take you out of the game. You bend, but you don't break. And on the other side of these experiences, You access parts of yourself that you've never known before. So one of the things that I'm very proud of is that even though circumstances have been what they've been, they haven't kept me small or living in a small box. The first time I took a chance on myself and I pulled out money out of my 401k to go to Egypt, I was A, the only Mexican, B, probably like the only poor person that had to scrape her pennies to go. And I was surrounded by people that were big in the corporate world, oil tycoons from all over the world. And this is who I was traveling with, right? And I created friendships there that have lasted all of this time. Just because of your circumstances, don't let them keep you from stepping through the thresholds and the doorways that are going to allow you to shed the beliefs that have kept you in place, because there's more for you. There's more for all of us. So I'm thankful now. I am thankful that I had those really profound experiences with the psychedelics. And I also know that there is a much, much gentler way that allows the awakenings to be sustained as they happen. And they need to occur within your physical body. The body is the instrument that facilitates it all for us. Your heart, your willingness, your soul, your higher self, in combination with your mind and your body, are required. And love. Let me not forget to mention love. People talk about, like, I need to love me, I need to love myself. And as you and I begin to remember who and what we are, that is a byproduct. People want to heal from conditions and diagnoses. And I realize now why the full healing had not occurred yet, because it was part of what was put in place to facilitate the pushes that I needed to continue to walk my path, my journey. And I'm only now in full acceptance that I am divinity itself. So it makes sense that there had not been a healing before. When Yeshua said, "My Father and I are one," I see now why it could not have been any other way. Because all there is this energy that is God wanting to create, and then it shows up as a Cynthia, and it shows up as a Jane, and it shows up as a Michael, and it shows up as Dr. Sue, and it shows up as you. And each time that you and I say yes to the life that is presenting in front of us, instead of going into fear and not meeting it, then it's like we're putting this evolution on hold. So in Bali, there will be a beautiful, loving container, as well as the energy of the land. We get to work with the energy of the land, which is feminine, which is the divine feminine energy that is present there, because the people are sacred oriented. They see all of life as sacred. When they look at you, they look into your eyes, and it's almost like they recognize the divinity in you, even when you don't. So they are sacredly oriented. They pray nonstop every day, lighting incense, bringing flowers to altars. There are so many altars on this island that they can't even count them. Within people's homes, within their businesses, there isn't an aspect of Bali where you will not see an offering. So when we go there, we instantly, the second you get off the plane, you step into a prayer field of divine love and an awareness of how beautiful and sacred life is. And then we're being held in the divine feminine energy of Bali itself and her beauty, her lushness, her abundance. So, in a way, I'm glad that I didn't have the spontaneous remission when we went to Bali last year. There was a shift, enough to keep me going, because I certainly would not have wanted to miss out on what's been happening this last year. It's like the awakening, the rising of the Kundalini energy, the snake that I saw in the vision when I was 5, the snake that is in the cave that is protected by the bats in Bali. Jesus spoke to this, that this energy gets to be stewarded by you and me, inch by inch, up the body, so that it rises to the third eye and illuminates the high brain centers that allow you and I to remember the truth of who we've been, the truth of who we are, the truth of who and what will always be. So if you're here to remember and you want to be held in a container of love while we walk you through these experiences that allow you to begin to steward this energy and frequency of love within yourself for healing in all areas of your life, this trip is for you. I will be teaching from the anatomy of awakening and walking you through in a very loving way these exercises that are shared by Dr. Sue to allow this remembering to occur.